Hello students, I'm Ruchika and I welcome you to the English Academy. Here I have a lesson for students of class 10th on how to write short stories. Short stories is a creative writing skill and you can improve it by practice and by improving your vocabulary skills. So let us see what all it involves. Firstly, it is a matter of fiction or your imagination. You have to be very creative to write an interesting short story. You should use easily understandable grammatical structures or sentences so that it is easier for the reader to understand the story. It should go with the natural flow of speech. It should not be very difficult or should not involve a lot of drama. Short story is meant to be read at a single sitting. As you know, it is a short story and therefore it should be as direct and brief as possible. These are the 5 main elements of a short story: character, setting, plot, conflict and theme. I will discuss these one by one with you. Character. These are the persons which you introduce in the story. They can be some animals or you can use your own creativity. They should have some meaningful dialogues. The dialogues should have some expressions so that it gives the reader some kind of an interesting material to read and he is attached to the story. He can relate to the story. Give a characterization of the characters that you introduce. Characterization means that you describe the characters. Use some adjectives, some interesting words to describe the characters, like how they look, how they behave, how they dress up. Some make it something more different and interesting. You can choose a narrative of the story. It could be in the first or the second or the third person and you should maintain it throughout the story. Fewer is better. Try and keep a minimum number of characters. This is the golden rule for characters in the short story. As the story is short, so if you will have a lesser number of characters, it will be easier for you to maintain them in the story. The next element, setting. Setting is the time frame and the place where the story is set up. It should be brief, but try and make it more poetic and descriptive. Give a good description of the setting. Give the description of the scenes. Keep it short and single. This is the golden rule for the setting, that there should be only one setting where the entire story takes place and it should not be very descriptive, okay? It includes the location of the story, the context and the atmosphere where the story is happening. The next element, plot. The plot should also be simple and interesting at the same time. This is the flesh and the muscle of the story. So the whole story revolves around the plot. Now I will suggest you that don't make it very simple so that it is not at all interesting, and do not complicate it too much that the audience, that the reader cannot correlate with it. So you have to keep in mind the person who is reading the story, how it will be interesting for him, okay? Because you want more and more people should read your stories. This includes the start of the story, the body and the end. So this is a basic outline of the story. And you have to link all these 3 stages together with events and actions of the characters. You have to describe and connect the events and actions, and you should be very creative so as to make it more interesting. The next element, conflict. You can put some conflict, some matter of conflict in your story just to make it more interesting and make the reader more inquisitive. And this is the golden rule for a conflict, that it should be very intense but one. Now why it should be one? Again, because as it is a short story, it has to be short, and so you can only try and manage one conflict in the story. The next rule, resolve the conflict. So whichever conflict you have introduced, so then you use the characters which you have introduced to resolve this conflict. The next rule, opposition between the characters. Now this is a kind of conflict which you can introduce. You can create an opposition between the characters of the story. And then you can make a balance between these opposite characters. You can use these elements in your conflict. They can be mystery, empowerment, or surprise. This is the next element, theme. Theme is the framework of the story. It includes the plot, setting, conflict, and the characters. All of these have to be in coherence with the theme. Theme should be such that it is related to the readers. They can correlate to it. They can understand it in a very easy way. This is the central idea or the main belief of the story. This is the backbone of the story. Then the last but not the least, the ending. How should you end the story? You can resolve or you can give a solution by your own self. It could be an open-ended type of a ending, like the reader has his own views about the conflict and the characters which you have given in the story. It could also be a resolved and a clear-cut outcome. You can resolve the conflict and give a single solution to it. It could be parallel to the beginning. You can come back in a circle from where you had started the story and end it there only. It could also be a monologue by the central character which you have introduced, or it could be a dialogue between two characters. You can also end the story with an image. You can describe a scene and just close the story like that. Thank you for watching this video, and I would suggest you to improve your reading, to improve your short story writing. You should have a good reading also, so that you can have good ideas. Do subscribe to the English Academy.